Hi, everyone. Welcome to the event tonight. This is the Poetry Foundation's virtual open door reading. My name is Alex, and I am the Building and Events Manager at the Poetry Foundation. I use he, him pronouns. I am a white man with blonde hair and glasses. I'm wearing a green turtleneck, and I'm sitting against a wall that has a piece of art that is made out of fiber and metal material behind me. Before we begin, we want to recognize that the Poetry Foundation building is situated on the occupied original homelands of the Council of the Three Fires, the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, and Odawa nations. Indigenous people continue to live here today, and Chicago is home to one of the largest urban Indigenous communities in the United States.
Hi! Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Noah, and I am the events assistant at the Poetry Foundation. I am a white, non-binary trans femme who uses they, them pronouns. I would visually describe my look tonight as pirate poet. I'm wearing a gold-gilded black blazer over a blue blouse, lavender lipstick, and an eye necklace which matches the salmon-colored curtain behind me, bedazzled with even more eyes. My hair is blonde and wavy. It is parted to the side. And on the other side here, I've got a dangling green earring.
We'd like to say that this is a relaxed virtual space, so feel free to do what you need for your body and mind to be more comfortable. If that means eating a snack, hydrating, nursing, lying down, taking a break, that's all fine. So let's all take a second now to try to make ourselves 10% more comfortable. And now I'd like to introduce our first reader, Tara Betts. Tara Betts is the author of Break the Habit and Arc and Hue, as well as the chapbooks 7x7 Kwansabas and The Greatest, an homage to Muhammad Ali. She is part of the MFA faculty at Stonecoast, University of Southern Maine. When she's not teaching, Tara works with dedicated teams at Another Chicago Magazine and the Langston Hughes Review as poetry editor. She also hosts author chats at the Seminary Co-op bookstores in Chicago's Hyde Park neighborhood. She's a co-editor of The Beijing of America, Personal Narratives About Being Mixed Race in the 21st Century, and editor of the critical edition of Philippa Duke Schuyler's memoir, Adventures in Black and White. Her work has appeared in numerous journals and anthologies, and we are so excited to hear her read tonight. So Tara, I will invite you to take it away.
Hi, thanks Alex and Noah. This is Tara Betts coming to you live from my living room. I'll describe myself. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I'm in my living room. The walls are painted white. I'm in front of a faux fireplace, which means I don't get to have a real fire going. But as you can see, I have lots of books to keep me warm behind me. I have on a black off-the-shoulder top with some little racy straps going over the bared, is it the right shoulder? Yes, it'd be my right, your left. I have on red lipstick, some chunky little tortoiseshell glasses, silver hoops, and my hair is short, silver, and wavy. So I guess that's my description. Yes, books are the warmest company. Somebody said that in the chat. I'm going to read a few poems and then I'm going to introduce a young woman who's really been not just my closest student, but a very good friend. And I'm so proud of her and everything that she's accomplished, not just as a writer and a scholar, but also as a budding entrepreneur. So I'll leave it at that for now. You'll hear more about her shortly. And here's my first poem, which is distinctly COVID-19 related, but also happy. Joy don't fold or jingle. In this dystopian viral fog, we somehow manage to dance. In these times where we wonder about evictions and bread, billy clubs and erratic fireworks, bursting skin and nightly sleep, we laugh. We remember Bill Withers and Prince. We celebrate Betty Wright and Gwendolyn Brooks. There are litanies of names braiding our histories to pride and terror, and we say, you have not devoured our clapping, our embraces, our almost solar smiles. We will not give all of those to your ugly. What is hideous in the world has not earned that privilege, and what it is was stolen. We were no longer hushing and shushing thieves like arrogant children. We demand that they restore, apologize, repair, unlearn, relearn a world where joy is not for sale, whether the currency be lives or paper. So I'm reading all new poems tonight, and this one recently appeared in the Chicago Reader. It is called Have a little drink of water. The Garden of the Phoenix in Lovecraft Country. If you've ever been to Jackson Park, you know there's a huge Japanese garden in there that was established in 1937. So that poem, that garden is a character in this poem, as well as some of the people in Matt Ruff's novel, which I really loved, and I love the series too. The Garden of the Phoenix in Lovecraft Country, Chicago 2020. A Japanese garden nestled against Lake Michigan, with its bridges, pagodas, and arranged stones, produces no skeletons, tentacles, Cthulhu, or Shoggoths, covered with blinking eyes shunning light. Instead, warm sun runs its fingers along my arms. Intermittent shade, a soft breeze twists some cool out of this late August afternoon. I find my footing in Hyde Park, Washington Park, Woodlawn, where manicured serenity offers me paths and a sign that notes this garden began in 1936, before cancer wrapped its claws around H.P. Lovecraft like one of his horrors, before the author of Lovecraft Country was born, or able to summon the ghost of a writer who coined an epithet as a cat's name. Some have always said it. Others sidestepped, then substituted two syllables with N word. We walk to find some sort of middle aged endurance and laugh with talk of science fiction. How teachers draw on everything they know, and Lovecraft Country with scenes on the South Side we know, where masks now keep viral terror at bay. We laugh about Atticus, not Finch, Uncle George and Letissa Lewis facing down children of the night, the opening of ancient portals, collapsing mansions, and ancestral ghosts, and none of them seem more terrifying than mapping green books of living Black lives in a stopped car, or a car full of men chasing you with rifles and rope, or being dragged into the dark woods. Not one monster is scarier than a sheriff with a gun, a badge, too much authority, and a name for you and yours. I say, no, nothing is scarier than that. We walk back to the car, how black fingers cling to the edge of a city as we drive home before sundown in this damned and beloved town where Southside transforms into a code like alien or race. So, my third poem is dedicated to the students that I was working with at Stateville Prison before COVID-19 limited all interaction. And many of the inmates there have been on 23-hour lockdown, which means they never leave their cell within a 23-hour period. And they haven't had a lot of access to soap and clean water. So I've been really worried about them. Um, this is a poem about one of the participants in my poetry workshop there. And um, if you haven't heard of Dr. Margaret Burroughs, she founded the DuSable Museum. She was a poet, she was a visual artist. She founded the Southside Community Arts Center. Mm. And she taught for years at several prisons, including Stateville. And the program I'm in, PNAP, Prison Neighborhood Arts Project, was inspired by her. So this is a poem where she's a character as well. Small illuminations. 1. Albert is a gentle tower, his arms arched over tabletop like bridge beams or girders. Even if he does not understand everything he reads, he smiles like a good kid, like the kid he probably was some 30 years ago when he was in the wrong car with the wrong people at the wrong time that he will never get back. 2. The attention to detail borders on flawless, unscuffed white sneakers, perfected lined fades, tucked under precisely folded scullies, immaculate with what you got as a clean, hard fought pride. 3. One week, I bring crisp folders, a bundle of sharpened pencils with full pink erasers, round and soft as a doll's blush. They rub away small errors, like clearing smudges from a page, like an actual correction. 4. I look for Albert's easy grin first when I walk into the concrete block classroom, locked in the education building, relieved that the broken window denies the cold like a plea. One brother in blues with thermal sleeves peeking out of dull, faded ocean of cloth arching over his torso. A cellmate hands me the slightly worn, safeguarded, staple bound book of poems. The signature resolute and matching letters of a poet's name who strolled into prison like a mother without fear of any child. Margaret Burroughs. More than a decade since she left the cell of her body. I clutch her poems, knowing how they passed from her hands like a prayer. We both smile, small illuminations in a dark hell. When the cellmate says, Albert wanted you to have this, he got transferred. He knew you would keep it safe. Um, I'm going to read this next poem, which is a part of my next book. It's called When Racism Affecting Black Girls is Ignored. And it's preceded with an epigraph from a Washington Post article by Khadija Costley White. When racism affecting Black girls is ignored. I was overwhelmed by the thought of having to be a Black girl for the rest of my life. Khadija Costley White. Ignoring more than obvious hands, slicing up people in halves, more like eminent domain, cutting, chopping up a neighborhood to build highways and forget, more like taking a shot glass where the lip drops on a canvas, then cutting away what rests beyond the glass and insisting that is the entire picture. It erases all the known faces, then denies where suns began. This ugly says, be strong and silent, only to slap the deserving and reason how she can handle anything. This smothering quietly descends, keeps smiling and says, wait, behave. Your turn is coming soon. Um, I think I'm gonna do. Is that it? Yeah, I'm at my last poem. Wow, I was scrolling because I haven't for virtual readings. I have not been reading from the book as much, um, so it's hard to gauge when you're not holding paper and you're used to holding paper or a book. But this is my last poem, and I just find that as a woman who's a little bit more mature, I'm maybe getting a little more sassy, a little more defiant. And I just don't think it's worth giving up your solitude if your solitude is peaceful, right? Because sometimes you entertain other people, bring them into your life, and then they bring all the chaos, which can be useful sometimes. But I think this poem kind of came out of ain't nobody breaking stuff that's working. So I'll close with that and I'll introduce sort of the next poet. What bucks or breaks? Watch me press flat this bristling moment that softens into mature bitter, this tense sugar spun from shimmering refuse, absence turned solo, celebrating living as one, not two, because who needs a trap woven from promise that favors maroon ropes, a bloody cat's cradle, a cage, this planned life, puzzle out and escape, confinement labeled as safe. Don't trust the hands that throw you on a whim, safeguarding half baked lies, nothing that protects or bucks the saddle, chucks the soft rein, or breaks. I reject iron hammered to my feet. I paint these lips, brighten my face, dress in my wishes, ignore solicitous open palms, and greet my breath. So that's my last poem for you guys tonight. Thank you for joining us with the Poetry Foundation. And I love the comments. I'm so glad you guys are joining us from different cities, different states, different countries. And I'm really excited to share the next poet with, or a little bit about the next poet. I met our next poet when she was 14. I was a little bit older, but not as old as I am now. And I met her when she was a student at Lane Tech High School, and she'd already been studying creative writing, and she was reading with another poet's class um, at Guild Complex, and my class was reading that night as well. And I just remember her at age 14. Everybody got quiet as soon as she started to read. And when she left that night, she forgot her notebook. And I picked up her notebook and I said, I'm going to see this kid again. Had no guarantee I was going to see her again. And when I did, she was a student. I believe she had just started at Young Chicago Authors. I may be wrong. Ciara can correct me. But after that, we got the opportunity to work together much more closely. And I saw her all the way through high school. And when she went to go to Sarah Lawrence to get her bachelor's degree, that was at the same time that I moved to New York City. So we kind of went our separate ways, even though we were in New York. And then we came back to Chicago around the same time. She finished her master's degree in Indiana. So it's been like we've had these parallel journeys and now we live in the same neighborhood. So it's been good to just stay in touch and sometimes write together and just be close that way. So I'm glad to introduce her. Please check out her poems. I know she's got a manuscript. She won't tell you that. And she did this amazing chapbook called Silver Bullet. So much to say. I'll be quiet and let you guys get to the poems. All right. Thank you.
Let's give another round of applause before we move on to Tara Betts. Yay, that was so good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Our next reader, who Tara Betts started to introduce so lovely, is Ciara Miller. Ciara Denise Miller holds both an MFA and an MA in Poetry and African American African Diaspora Studies from Indiana University, where she founded the city's very popular Bloomington Poetry Slam series. She also received her BA in Liberal Arts from Sarah Lawrence College, a school that is known for its rigorous writing curriculum. She has published poems and academic essays in such collections and periodicals as Black Girl Magic, The Whiskey of Our Discontent, Breakbeat Poets, Mosaic, Fjords Review, African American Review, Callaloo, Muzzle, Alice Walker Critical Insights, Chorus, and many more. Please give it up for Ciara Miller.
Hello. Hopefully you all can hear me. You can write in the chat if you can. Excellent. Yes, my name is Ciara Miller. I use the she, her pronouns. I am not home now. You can see the skyscrapers behind me. I am on a very elevated floor in a downtown hotel. And I am wearing, I forgot how Tara Betts described my shirt, but it's fluffy and it's white. I want to say thank you, just thank you to the Poetry Foundation for allowing me to take part in this moment. Thank you to Tara Betts as well. I wrote to her as she described me. We have quite a journey. Not often are you able to follow your teacher through life and to be with one another, in different contexts, even different cities, is really, really phenomenal. So I appreciate your support, Tara. I loved your poems. And yeah, so I am going to start with poems that I don't think I've read before, just to challenge myself to not just stick with the new or the familiar, I should say. I also want to say this before I read this poem. Sometimes I like to write from the perspective of a person who's not always correct, a person who may say some things that are problematic, but they're just being human. And so this is called Inglewood for now. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the neighborhood Inglewood in Chicago, but most times when a neighborhood is called Inglewood, you can assume that there may be some tragedy surrounding that community. And so this is just something that captures those experiences. Although I want to be clear, there's lots of beauty in Inglewood as well. God planned to take me from Sarah Lawrence College back to the heart south side of Chicago, Inglewood. As a West Sider, I knew every other part of the city besides the side where other Black folks lived. What reason do we have to visit each other? To see more sadness? Inglewood, soft in the morning, beautiful houses adorned with Christmas lights. At night, gunshots and prostitutes beaten in the head with crates. The first time I opened my blinds and accidentally undressed with the windows up, a woman asked if she could join me. I fled to switch the light off. All of my Sarah Lawrence activism became as sealed as my window. During the day, Inglewood neighbors waved to me as I walked to the 63rd and Ashland Green Line stop. Perhaps because I was the only woman on 61st and Laughlin to get up every morning to go to work, passing the teddy bears and flowers across from the corner church, a new set of balloons and flowers laid out for a new death. One day, to get to the store to buy some Doritos, my friend and I leaped over a puddle of blood, a fresh body killed. One night, during a blackout, a man opened his car door and told me to hop in. Not too much different from when I first gained hips at age 12 on the west side, and a white driver mistook me for a prostitute. Through Inglewood, I understood the brain drain of Africa, how it is difficult to keep an educated African in his country. I knew it wouldn't be long before I fled this space too. And so that poem is one that I'm working on. It will likely be a part of a manuscript that I've had for some years now. And one thing that comes up a lot in my writing is this idea of home, which is a topic that Blacks have explored for, I would say centuries now. Where is home? Where can we feel that sense of freedom? So the main speaker in my poems, she navigates through these different spaces, whether it's Chicago, Bloomington, Indiana, different countries in Africa. And so that's, why you'll see some of those connections. I'm going to read that in conjunction with this the next poem, Women Who Go Missing. And this poem was drafted while I was a student at Indiana University. And I wrote it because my very first day in Bloomington, I was so excited to be there. And I was stopped by some news reporters and asked about a woman who went missing. And so this just gives you more information about that, especially when thinking about what I just came from in Inglewood. My first day in Bloomington, Indiana, all moved in. I jogged to the main campus to stretch my calves in the air, commit to my newly Bally Total Fitness body, and claim the city as my own. Finally, no more bodies of blood to step over. Channel 7 News approached me and asked about a white girl who went missing. I saw her posters, but didn't know how fresh the wound, or that I, a Black woman, would be expected to have any stake in the conversation. What advice would you give to other young women who are out having a good time at night? The reporter asked. I wondered what a predominantly white small town could possibly want with my Black body. Then I remembered that Black women are often kidnapped and left unreported or unfound. But I couldn't imagine telling another Black girl to stay in the house any longer. We want the heels, the alcohol, the tossed hair, and desirability. I said, you really don't know who's a predator. Your best bet is to not drink so much and have a supportive group of friends. The news reporter nudged. Don't you think young women should get home at a reasonable hour? I wanted to say, no, I don't. I wanted to say, I think we should live and toast and enjoy the night's air. I wanted to say, I think we should live. I think my Black body in this city should live. I'm tired of being afraid. All right. Now I'm going to get to a poem that I don't read as often, but I think it's necessary to read this because before this reading, I spent all day editing. And Tara Betts mentioned my business. It's really an academic business. Thank you. Thank you for your kind words. I'm seeing the comments there. So it's really an academic business. I help a lot of students pass standardized tests. And I also serve as an editor, mainly an academic editor, but I help people with their creative writings as well. And so it's funny that I'm in that field, but I spent so many years trying to excel academically, only to recognize just how social realities hinder your ability to progress sometimes, even when you have your degrees. Here's this poem. It's called Exhaustion, after Fenton Johnson, who had a poem called Tired. I am tired of academia, tired of thinking, tired of needing money and hungering to learn, tired of not changing the world, but changing my mind as the world changes. Let us rest. Our blood is being banked on thin bark, wetted, slicked, inked, and framed. Love does not study gender in library cubicles, does not write scholarly articles about countries never visited, does not collapse the song of Malala's name. I am so tired of academia, tired of the blubber of mind due to an inertia of body, tired of the sealed letters of our thinking. Yeah, and it's so funny that I could, write a poem like that. Even my business is hilarious because I went to Sarah Lawrence College where we don't even believe in grades or tests. But I do this work because I understand that these grades, these tests, academic writing is all a means to an end, right? So if I can help people get over that hurdle, then maybe we can access some sense of liberty, especially if we can create opportunities for ourselves. All right, so let me get back to some other poems here. Let's see here. I'm going to read a poem called War Stories, and it's published in Muzzle. And all I'm going to say about this one is that it just really considers pain, right? Sometimes you can tell your pain narrative to someone and they're so consumed with their own pain that they don't really hear you. And then sometimes, we live in a country that encourages us to, I would almost say, pity people based on their circumstances versus seeing their full humanity, when the reality is every individual experiences pain. So it's really a poem that asks us to hear other people, even if, we've been told that some pain narratives are more important. All right. War Stories. If you dare play this game, go first. Tell him your father left letters in your mother's pearl box. He'll tell you he left Congo at 13. Tell him your mother ran screaming into traffic. He'll tell you his mother ran pregnant, yanking the arms of his siblings. Point to the vacancy your father never touched. He'll imitate the cacophony of bullets. Tell him your entire life in 3 mouthfuls so that he may forget when you two come home from a night out, you winding your hips to the saddest day of my life, and he sees you exposed like 80 proof vodka. Imagine him scurrying barefoot past Tootsie bullets of the Second Congo War, when he eyes the red and green empty-eyed mask peering at the two of you from your white wall, and the Eastern African mud cloths and gold kente draped over your American living room couch. Tell him your war story, sloppy and laughing, as if you can only think about the children in Africa, as your mother would say when you would throw bologna into the garbage. All right, that ends on such a such a harsh note, but it's something to think about, right? Because I know personally, I wouldn't want anyone's cultural pity, right? I think that we need to really see each other as individuals and hear each other's narratives. But here we go. This is another poem that I'm not sure if I ever read this one out loud. I definitely want to continue to rework it. It's not quite finished. But what I will say about this one is that I think about the generational pain of Black women. Generational pain, and just how we carry over that pain to our children. So this is called Broiled Meat. Do not spank the baby in the bath water is a lesson our mother's mother never spoke. So we soaked our knees in the marinade of dirt and baked. Sweet salt, pepper, vinegar, we, sisters, aunts, mothers, daughters, are anxious with death on our hands, cleansing our children and flicking fingers to their teeth. How naturally the belt slips through the hoops of our tired jeans. Our fingers thick and crusted, heavy-handed and searching for the softest mush of our children's backs. We forget that one day they will look back at us with every bit of regret that they were born into a family of heavy hearts and brick hands. They'll hope to never look back again to the home we've broiled of bruised knees and seasoned meat. They'll remember pleading, "May I eat the fish and not feel like an extra mouth to feed." Yeah. I think when I wrote this poem, I was thinking about some of those days that my mother cooked and just the frustration in trying to cook and make sure that everything is okay. And that feeling as a child of thinking like, am I in the way? It's, it was seldom just the sense of peace, even if there was love. And so, yeah, like some of those memories can make home not such a pleasant place. I think I'll read 2 more poems and I will conclude there. Let's see. All right. Okay. I think I'm going to read this poem, which was recently published in the Chicago Reader. I have a video of it on YouTube, and it's funny because I was mistaken for another person named Ciara Miller, who basically cursed out a veteran, and people just assumed that was me because we have the same name, although we don't look alike. We don't even live in the same area. And so I received a lot of hateful comments on YouTube under this video for mistaken identity, just because we're 2 Black women with the same name. But here it is. Chirac. A gang of white college frat boys walked into CVS, loud and laughing the term Chirac. I turned around like the Black man in Frantz Fanon's Black Skin, White Mask when the little French child said, "Look, a Negro." Because in naming, it's always about what you answer to. In Bloomington, Indiana, a name like Chirac is for the shadows of Chicago's West and South Side, where news stories about bullet wounds can only be compared to a third world country. The 4 frat boys continued to laugh as I remained stuck in an aisle, confused about the meaning of artificial and natural flavors. Chirac, I laughed, and then laughed again at the memory of my saxophonist friend complaining about journalists who referred to his sound as Coltrane-ish. The 2 sound nothing alike, besides maybe an instrument. In this case, maybe a gun. Tell me what I sound like, my friend demanded. So I turned to the laughing frat boys and asked the same thing. Do you pronounce it Chirac or Chirac? As in, who is the president of Iraq or Iraq? As in, who came to occupy Inglewood or North Lawndale? As in, do you even know about Inglewood or North Lawndale? As in, who started the war anyway? As in, when you merge the names of a city and a nation, do you know anything about either place? The boys were stunned. One step forward with the hands up, don't shoot pose. I fired anyway. What does 7 gunshots sound like to a girl who comes home before streetlights glare to avoid being gunned down? Could it sound like home? What do Iraqi children dream about besides war or religion? Wasn't I the child stuffed in windowless classrooms built like prisons? Wasn't I the child given books with torn front and back covers, restrooms with ripped down doors where us girls had to pee in front of each other, quelling the awkwardness with reminders that it's okay, we all have the same thing? Tell me about mothers raising children amongst bullets. Tell me about mothers who kiss their sons, who carry guns and bullet wounds in their chests. Tell me about Black on Black crime. Tell me about human beings being murdered. It was just a joke, one of the gentle boys said. You know, Chicago is a scary place. I told them, that yes, I do know. And that until they've actually held the names of girls and boys on their tongues for longer than a 5-second sigh at the deaths of people rendered invisible in this American landscape, don't talk to me about war, about bodies falling, about this Black body here. What do you have to say to the woman whose name you speak? Chirac, I am here, as alive as a ghost rebirthed in Bloomington, Indiana. And when you call someone's name, always expect an answer. And I'm going to close out with a short poem. And yeah, it's a short poem. It was a fun poem to write. All I'm going to say is that I'm not really talking about eggs. That's all I'm going to say. It's called Cracked from the Same Shell. Never compare two eggs that both spill yolks, that both crack ooze, that move into your home, cold and waiting to be opened, to be fingered feathers soft, smashed against the wood, slithered seasoned stirred, spread into your pan, laid flat like an omelet, heart of red peppers, green bells screaming. If one don't stick to your pan, you scramble her loose, scrape her onto a plate, wash that plate white, and prepare for next day's dish. The second egg always hears the splash of guts, wants to prove she's tough, waiting to be banged in that rotten way when you're bored and starved, and she's eager to know if she's better than yesterday's dish. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. And I know you guys are going to enjoy our next reader, Nathan Hoks. And so without any further words from me, I'm going to close out here and allow you to hear from our next reader. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Ciara and Tara. I want to introduce our next reader for the evening, Nathan Hoks. Nathan Hoks has published 2 books of poetry, Reveilles and The Narrow Circle, which was a winner of the National Poetry Series. A chapbook, Moony Days of Being, won the 2017 Tomaj Shalaman Prize. Hoks teaches creative writing at the University of Chicago and the School of the Art Institute, and is an editor and printer for Convulsive Editions, a Chicago-based micropress. His 3rd book, Nests in Air, is forthcoming from Black Ocean. And now, Nathan, feel free to take it away.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning in. I go by the he pronouns, but I'm open-minded. And down here in my basement office, there's a peace lily behind me. A very cool Olivetti Letra 22, which my wife kindly got for me last year for my birthday. And then I broke the carriage release handle within the first month. It was quite sad. Bunch of books behind me. Got light skin, bald, luminescent light radiating off my head. I'm going to start with a poem called Cruelty. If everyone's done chatting. I don't want to be this dog's body, this wet snout, this drool, these half-cracked claws, these paws caked in dried mud. I don't love mud. I don't want to go on with lamentations, so much soil, so many heart lacerations, fluctuations that strike me, bend, burn, knock me down. I'm never renewed. I whistle and sweep the cottage. I wait for the night to engulf me in its pamphlet of apolitical buzz and shriek, bug zappers. Nope, I don't want to be this ear, hung like a messiah in dead thistle, hung like a messenger, a vessel of fluid, hung like garlic in the doorway of 1,000 particles of ultraviolet light, which cruise through my deep gold beer. No, I don't want to feel any longer like I was shot from the cannon in a military museum with a waxwing crescent burning in my neck, bleeding light out of my armpit, the hot epicenter of the dog's body, which is the garden of murmurs, the flight of hungover angels, giggles, soap, wasps, sapless maples, bones, froths, bubbles, spittle in the dark window. When the dog bows to the mule, listen for the graceful bray. A couple of weeks ago, I crashed my bike and broke some bones, and it was a stupid crash I slipped on wet leaves, kind of pounded into a pulp on the cement, what Hopkins called leaf meal in his poem Spring and All, if you know that one. So I thought I'd read this poem. It's an older poem about a leaf. At first I thought I'd read it as a truce, but I realized I'm a petty man, and so it's more of an act of vengeance. The poem's called Twitch of the Exterior. My left eye twitched, a communication from the twitchy leaf detaching from the old oak tree. Twitchy leaf about to fall to the grass, to be stomped into the mud or blown to another oak, to be torn to shreds and swallowed by a rabbit, battered to a pulp, digested and excreted, washed into a brackish pool, smeared into the pavement. Twitchy leaf that cannot fall asleep, cannot change its posture, revise its politics, sell its time. Twitchy leaf that cannot buy a book, make a note, feel despair, groan, belch, hesitate, burn the toast, take a bath, grade an essay, write a poem, rip a fingernail, stack the bottles in a pyramid on the patio, call Teddy over for fried eggs, burn the butter, crack the window, cut into the soft tomato that had been sitting on the counter in the light. This poem is coming out in the next book next spring. The poem's called Nests in Air, which is also the title of the book. When I draw a bath for my 6-year-old, he is copying in cursive his story about the wild man who, upon finally shaving his massive beard, saw how sloppy his mouth had become, a deranged half-moon hanging slightly to the left side of his sun-red face. Like all medieval folk, the man aspired to a seat at the round table, but this was no way for a good knight to appear. An airborne mother wrote him a coded message in the clouds, but only the key hidden in his dead father's jerkin would unlock its meaning. 6 simple steps to the everyday work of emotional recovery, where masculine neurons ignite an emblazoned zone of energetic fruit. The man put away his sword and digested the seeds. Night limped forward. At that point, my son's handwriting became a gnarled mass of lines, a scribbled heap of twine, a nest of helpless body rhythms that buried as a new fragrant dimension an indefinitely shaped lake lapping against steep granite bluffs, while overhead fly fire-red daybirds in night swirling swoops, and the looming despots turn to cloud. I should have prefaced that by mentioning I sampled some of Wallace Stevens' language from The Idea of Order at Key West in that poem. A couple more here. Then I'm going to talk about Jake. This poem's called Economy, something I know nothing about. When I give money to the blue ghoul, the ants encircle him. The thimble halos his memory's eyelet to cup and gum a berm of foam. Ho! That sparkles in spelling my dream name. My dream name works alone in the lower tower, watering rolls of felt for the seamstress. Paper and vapor, vapor and sand. Ho ho! The feldspar pokes through the rubber floor and trips up the fast doorman who only wears green. Moss is what he wants to be. This poem is for a student who didn't make it. It's called Dead Julia Syndrome. If it is possible to lick your own elbow, why did Julia kill herself? I thought the man with the radish would warm her ribcage, but the bleeding finger became a distraction, and the flogged horse sent us all spinning down the village well of internal turmoil. So I went into the mustard field to sweep myself away with the dusk, and I went onto the sunny patio to sear memory out of my scalp. But I merely scared away the robins. If it is possible to inspect the back of your neck, if it is possible to feel a protein enter the slog and ooze of the bloodstream, why kill anything at all? My coffee's cold, my heart runneth dry. Another day, another coffin makes, and yellow chicks fluff up beneath the warm lab lights. I take my bleeding finger to the other room where the radio won't reach us, where the blackout shades will keep away the light, where a forest may spring from Julia. This is a happier student-based poem. So one of the stupid things I do in my classes at the beginning of the year, as Jake Weiss will no doubt remember, I ask students to play an icebreaker, and I miss, there's this icebreaker of like 2 truths and a lie, and I think I misunderstood it. And I always had my students do 2 lies and a truth. I don't know, and you guess one or whatever. Anyway, I assembled this poem, borrowing a couple truths or lies from my students, and then kind of making up my own truths and lies as well. So it's called Icebreaker Poem. My favorite succulent is Leopold. I keep it on the shelf with Marvin's book. I have 3 brothers and I love them. All they do is watch figure skating. I don't love figure skating. My least favorite meal is brunch. I always wanted to be a nurse. My mom is a musician who studies martial arts. She has lived for 3 decades in the Bay Area. She has to move because they raised the rent. Once I ate a salad with Bernie Sanders. I lost my luggage in Costa Rica. I lost my virginity in Santa Fe. I lost my mind in a black backpack of bent thumbtacks. My favorite best friend is a potato. I learned to French kiss by practicing on spuds. I was born without a mother tongue. I was born without genitalia. I was born with an innate love of speed. Sometimes I have trouble connecting the dots. My uncle was a Polish anarchist who taught me how to skateboard in an empty swimming pool during the last drought. I hit my head when I crashed, and now each moment feels disconnected from the last. My tattoos are portraits of my favorite poets. My tattoos are flowers that bloom in the desert. My tattoos are portraits of my dogs. On my thigh is the spaniel named Hank, who was hit by a mail truck, and miraculously, he survived. Okay. Last one here. This is called Tongue Poem. If you find a tongue in your coffee, I recommend calling over the barista. Tell him there's been a glitch and you would like your money back. Tell him you're tired of these pranks. Tell him you know the ropes and you know the jugs of wine will catch fire when the cat walks by. It's not his fault, but it's a fair question. If there were no private schools, who would dismember the poor? My ignorance is legendary, sugary as a fig, and when I flinch, the sun farms blisters on my head, flowers of pus, protrusions, skin cells, arrows, wheals, a headache. The tongue in my coffee puts me in a bad mood. The oak table is on fire again. I'm spinning, it's effortless. The hammers have lost their handles. The wolf mother circles the backyard, wondering with the rest of us, who would dismember the kids if the right-wingers lost their hard-ons? Don't listen to me. If you find a tongue in your coffee, obviously you should tell your priest. Open up to the guy. Admit it all. Stuff your pockets full of thistles. You might feel as if you have climbed over the Hueco Mountains and are vomiting tomato sauce and pickles. Or you are a daisy cutter wiping out a dusty village for ambiguous reasons. But trust that when the owl peeks at you over the jutting rocks, the diamonds in his eyes are the real thing. Okay, that's it from me. I just want to say a couple words about Jake. Thank you for listening to me ramble on there. Jake's the real thing. And I'm really excited to hear his reading tonight. Jake's one of the few students crazy enough to take 3 workshops with me, I believe. And kind of like Tara was saying about Ciara, part of having that much time together means I got to see such great growth and development in Jake's work. I think Jake's poems are absolutely fabulous. They sparkle. Language in Jake's poems makes itself and makes language around it brighter and more interesting. They're very playful, even as they're exploring strange, mysterious, or difficult subject matter. So I'm really pleased to have Jake join us, and I'll hush it from here and turn things over. Thanks again. Thanks to the Poetry Foundation.
Thank you, Nathan. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Jake Weiss. Jake Weiss is a graduate from the University of Chicago, where he studied public policy and creative writing. He is the recipient of the 2020 John Billings Fisk Poetry Prize at the University of Chicago for the best poem or cycle of poems by a student in the graduating class. He is a former editor of Chicago's Sliced Bread magazine, and his poetry has been published both there and in Euphony Journal, another University of Chicago publication. His next stop is likely an MFA. Without further ado, please welcome Jake Weiss.
Thank you so much, Noah, and thank you, Nate, for all your kind words. Ciara and Tara as well. I loved hearing all of your work, and it is it's a pleasure to read along with all of you. My name is Jake. I am a white cisgender man. I use he pronouns. I have red hair and a slightly less red mustache. I'm currently wearing a green striped sweater, and I'm sitting here at my desk right in the heart of New York City. So I'll be reading a few poems this evening. Most of these poems I have never read before. A couple of them I have. So that'll be really exciting, and thank you all for listening. This first poem is called Effacement. This is not to excuse my absence. My removal was happenstance, a firefly losing the last of its engine oil. In realness, I've been sitting on the slide of a rhombus, resisting the down juice. Plum spin sugar, syrup teases and drips. Then the head starts to press up on the slick-brained shoulder, saying shyly that it is beginning to ache from all these raspberry daydreams and grayscale sleep. The buzz, sustaining itself like a warming candle in the depths of winter, its shadows making crinkle-cut serpents on an off-white wall. Will it enter obsolescence or continue to course heroinically through me, washing my gentle ribcage out to sea? Each moment is more slender than the previous. It rests its hand on its belly to create the illusion of thickness. giving no warning of their return. Ragweeds mirror the multitude of all the tiny things found in water, which the stomach stymies, but which fester beneath the dry cheekbones and grow ancient with me. This next poem is quite a recent one. I don't know if many of you have been following this, but it's been an extremely active hurricane season, as if to remind us that even though the coronavirus is going on, we have a bevy of other issues at our hands, specifically climate change in this case. I've always been really interested in the naming of storms and how experts name them in order so that people will be able to keep track of them. And this year there have been so many that they've gone past all the regular alphabet. They usually have like an A storm, a B storm, a C storm, and one's the Greek alphabet. So the most recent one is iota. And so this poem is largely about hurricane survival. Louisiana coastal toast. When Hurricane Hester tattered the rosewood, my humble home sank to pathetic rubbernecks on the outskirts of skirt shops. Automobiles sputtered, their drivers staring at the rubble I'd assembled to a temple in the lees of 2003. Gaseous green, the general gestalt, though sometimes in the center of a second-hand tick through second-hand smoke, my zinnias persevere till autumn and I soak in the sentience of scent. I request no forgiveness, nor is it warranted, whispered, or wept. Swimming among manta rays, I gather it is time to come up for lunch. I kiss my flat friends farewell and gather my belongings, belonging to shoals of plankton who are not much for sentimentality. My life upon this headsick pile of rubbish. Crusty armholes smell like feet. Seaweed being the only intoxicant, I huff till the sun goes gray and cameras flash like shark fins above the star-spangled surf. Fault lines. I am a fool fit hardly for walking. I am reckless on wheels and feckless in words. I am a hammock layer, a no-getter, a cloying child in my cerebrum. I am a world record dunce cap wearer, an empty chalkboard ethnographer, an inside of my nose photographer. I am the captain of a mortifying mutiny against me. I am starboard and I am overboard. I am capsized. The sky dwells solely in reflections. I lose myself in a poppy field, a copied teal, an imitation color wheel. I am the nectar in the deepest calla lily. Perennial tectonic ashes ready to bloom, wafting the smell of campfire into this vented room. I am the kick drum in a pompous guitar romp, the jowl of a prowling jazz strut. I am an apple-clad orchard carpet. I am the myriad flavors of mushrooms. This next poem is called Reverse Origin Story. It is loosely about the idea of the big crunch, which is this idea, it's a theory. No one knows whether it's going to happen. It's, one of many possible theories for the end of the universe. But it's this idea that just as the Big Bang created the world and the universe expanded, one day the universe will contract in the same way and go back into a singularity, which I think is an extremely terrifying idea Funny that it's terrifying because none of us are going to be around to see this potential thing, but I pretty vividly remember learning about it and being like, wow, that's real. That's pretty scary. So this poem is about that. Reverse origin story. Lord, I don't want to be crunched, said the bag's last potato chip to my salivating organ. He was astute enough to figure his fate would be like the others. A masticated wad flushed by constituent liquids up and around my remarkably animate inner tubing. If the universal plan does involve the crunching of me into singularity, I beseech all who decide, desist till I'm deceased beneath inspired annuals and wired late March perennials in a wooden forever case. Homeboys, pen pals, bunkmates, fellow Yahweh skeptical congregation members here for piano alone. I'll decompose. Don't sweat it. I will. Until such day, who are you? I'll ask curiously fateful individuals from dawns to twilights. Or, more aptly, can I be a part of this? Curiously fateful individuals rarely respond. They echo the queries as if in a cavern or a cavernous mouth-lidded mason jar. Snow globe, I can only resist shaking you because I am inside you. Bored in a microcosm of this oblong gift shop to be laid one fateful evening on a dusty mantle. I'll be reading one more poem tonight. It's a poem in 2 parts, and it's called For Violet. 1. She was in a box. She was fixating vividly on boxes, was affording piqued attention to new blue mold on rich red raspberries. She fixed herself a crooked spliff. 4 grams later, her grammar slips beneath the blushing willow. Comforts of God brush her under. Slalom nightmares feeding again and again the beast of her minute hand. She is woken by the prospect of there being a sun, though he is soon and yet to peak. When is she to know? She must anticipate all the returns, ferns to foxes, coughs to fevers, pills, quakes, bluster, and love in its 21,000 odd means of self-exposure. She is boxing with raspberry eyelids, the left one verging on current. She knows fear in the heart of its biome. The spider cracks and gold-pollinated expanses abandoned by cardinals, bared for her estranged dance, her muscular panic. When is she to untether? Rocks between banyans to listen. She does not know, but wants to know she is her own green willingness, thumb plastered to camera, the first violets. 2. Contemporary, her gait. Favorite tune temporary, a half-life, a bass clef, page-bound bars vibrating a cello. Unsatisfactory. Rain-boring, somnolent windows and walls, holes in windows lick her cerebrum. She has grown to smack and smooth in carefully administered doses. Pink, tactile teardrops sent between what she believes is her visage, knows is her nape. Paper gradually befalls the hideous typewriter burping sweet plum, the sunny catastrophe of the heart. Fonder by the day of her extemporaneity. She swills herself among Merlot sulfites by the glass's stem to pass the time. her glasses droop, stems her waking hours by the violet root. Thank you all so much for coming. It's been really a pleasure reading in front of you all, and I'll hand it back to you guys, Noah and Alex.
Great. Thank you so much, Jake. And thank you to all of tonight's readers. Let's all take a moment now to give them some virtual claps or virtual snaps, or both, for all of our readers from tonight. And I also want to thank all of you for joining us and watching tonight's reading. We do have a few more readings and events coming up towards the end of the year. You can go to poetryfoundation.org/events, where you will find more information on our virtual events and our library programming. So thank you again, everybody, and thank you again to tonight's readers. I hope you have a great night, and I hope everyone can stay safe and stay positive. So thank you so much, and good night.